Hello friends, welcome to Data Pandit. So today also we are going to concentrate on a sample AWS project, end-to-end projects, wherein we are going to see how the data streaming happens through API gateway and and it passes through the Kinesis AWS service and land into the Redshift, data warehouse. And to do that, we are going to use 3 to 4 AWS services in proper, and we will test it using the API gateway. We will push the record from API gateway, and it will travel through the data stream, Kinesis data stream, and to the firehouse, and then load into the Amazon Redshift, and from there on we can query the data. So this is sample data. I have taken a sample file which is not a complex file basically. So we are taking the baby steps actually. So in the sense of we'll use the sample simple file, and then probably we can take the, because it's an data warehousing solution, right? So streaming data could be a multiple number of columns and as complex as real time. So let's see what we are going to achieve as part of this is like, so we have an data uh, data coming in from the external sources, maybe the front desk or maybe another you know another system actually, as real-time data streaming happens, and that somehow they are going to land into the, maybe through the web application or maybe some other channel. They're going to uh, come to the AWS and API through the API gateway, and API gateway push the record into Kinesis data stream, and Kinesis data stream, and therein we have a Kinesis data warehouse. So Kinesis data stream cannot be load, can the data from the data stream cannot be directly loaded into the S3. So we have to have the Kinesis data warehouse as a connector to load into the S3 bucket or the AWS Redshift. So these two functional, right, to load the data from Kinesis data warehouse to S3 and Redshifts can happen simultaneously. So that's we are going to see in some time. So to achieve this, we would need certain, I mean, this infrastructure in AWS for sure. AWS Management Console we are going to use, and then we uh, properly configure the system or AWS services one by one. And the alternate way is to create a template, cloud formation template, right? So that also another way. So but we are going to create the things in our way. In cloud formation template we will use at in some other day. So we'll create a cloud formation template, and then we can utilize that template for multiple other I mean multiple times, right? And if there is amendment is required, we can just amend the cloud formation. So that's some the topic of some other day. So let's see the steps, what we are going to see actually. First of all, we are going to create the uh, you know uh, Kinesis data stream basically. So I have written as an API gateway. So let's see the for a API gateway, right? So what I'm going to do is, I mean, from the API gateway I would be putting the record into the Kinesis data stream. So you're right. So there should be some, role to push the data into the Kinesis data stream from the API gateway. So the API gateway needs to assume the role. There should be a role which would be assumed by API gateway, and that role has to have access to the Kinesis data stream, put record access. So we are going to put the record. So let's create the role basically. So go to the management console. So I am in the IAM and management console dashboard. I have already created the role actually. So what I would be doing is, like, I will show you. what role I have created already. So let's see, what role I have created already. So there is a role called kinesisPutRecordRole. So if I look at this role, so this role has, permissions as a kinesisPutRecord policy. So if you want to create a policy, right? So what I can do is like, I can create a policy, go to the policies, create a policy, and choose the service, right? Let's say Kinesis, and go to the right, okay, expand this, and then I'll deselect everything and I'll expand this, and then I'll, because I need only one access, which is put record. And in the resource section, I could use a specific, but let me try to use this all resources, and I'll create a next step, and then next. Okay, so if you look at this, and I can give the name, right? Kinesis put record, Kinesis put record policy. This is enough descriptive name, and I can create the policy. Already exists, so let's, because I have already created, so it's already existed. So let's say I'm creating one. I'll delete after that. So if you look at this policy, you will have, this is the JSON for the permissions. What permission it has is allow action put record kinesis for all the resources, right? So if you see the, yeah, this is policy. Now I will create the role. So if you create the role, create role, I need to have custom trust policy actually. Okay. And this trust policy is for API gateway. So if you look at the trust policy, the trust relationship, API gateway has to push the record, right? So as API gateway service has to assume the role. So I will give this trust relationship. I'll just modify over here API gateway, right? And then I'll go to next. And I would use that policy which I have created. Sorry, Control Z. Kinesis something, right? Put record policy. Let's say this one I am creating. I'm just giving a next, and I will give the name. So because I'm not creating, you just give the name, any name, put record role one, right? So let's say I've created this record, this role. So while doing that, so you will have this role, okay, Kinesis put record role one. If you go to the roles, if you go to see, so what role it has is, so this role has come, right? So this, if you look at this role, what it has is, it has this policy which has access to the put record into the Kinesis data stream, and it has a trust relationship of assuming the role from the API gateway, right? So this role is important to create as a first step actually. So create this role basically. So we are going to use this role, while creating the API gateway infrastructure in AWS console, right? So this is first part actually. So this test data is flows that we are going to use when we are going to test the data in, push the data whenever, right? Second step is create the data stream. So I'll create the data stream, then I'll create the, API gateway. So let me check. I have a data stream created. So this is a simple data stream. So if you have to create the data stream, you can go and just give the name. We are going to create the on demand because it's an very it's not costly. So we are going to create the on demand, data stream. So we are not provisioning. the resources, right? So we just create the test KDS, right? So just give this name and other settings I'm not going to modify actually. So in this way we have a write capacity of 200 MIB per second, around 200,000 records per second, or read capacity similar way 400 MIB per second. So this is the on-demand capacity of this. So just give the name and then create the data stream. So this stream is required to push the data from the API gateway. So I have already created. So okay, and so after creating this one, so let's go to the API gateway. So let's create the API gateway. So how to create the API gateway is like you go to the API gateway dashboard, and I have already created. So maybe we can look this again, actually create API. So we have multiple options over here actually, HTTP API, because HTTP API is not, not have options of AWS services. So therefore, we are not going to create as part of HTTP API. We are going to create as REST API actually, because it has an AWS service, because we are going to target as an AWS services, right? So therefore, I'm going to use a REST API, and I'm not using within a VPC. I'm using outside of VPC. So therefore, I'm using this one. So I cannot use the AWS this one WebSocket, because it's not a chit chat. It's not a real time. Real time app actually. So this WebSocket API is used for like uh, IM messaging, right? Messaging services. So we are not going to, the chat applications or dashboard, those kind of real-time applications. So, but I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use the REST API. So go to the REST API. So click on build. Now the we will select the REST, right? And new API I'm going to do. So name maybe test API. Okay, I can use, or maybe another name I can use, create API I can say, right? So once you have API, so you need to create the resource, resource in that. So create a resource, name the resource as a data, let's say, and then you don't have to do enable API at course, right? Cross origin reference resources that we are not going to use. Create resource. So once you create the resource, you click on here and then you create the action. So create method, sorry, create the method. So if you create the method, then we are going to post the right. So we are going to post the data. So if you click on post, you go here, click on here, and then you are going to use the integration type as a AWS service. So and region you can specify, because I'm in Mumbai region. So Mumbai region is equivalent to the app south one. So I can select app south one. Okay, and then AWS service which we are going to use Kinesis. So you select the Kinesis. Then AWS subdomain, I'm not going to do anything. HTTP method, we are going to post the data, right? So if you post the, because we are going to post the data, and if you want to go through each and every action from the Kinesis, API references, you can go this, and if we are going to put the record, right? So therefore the message is post. Okay. So we are going to post it and then use the list the resources action. What is the resource? Is put record. So if you select here, so put record is the action. Okay. Okay. Put record. Put record. Okay. Actions, and now execution role. So this is I was talking about, right? In the first step, we have created this role, right? Kinesis put. So I want to use this ARN of this role. Okay. I'll go here and use the this is role, right? So I can copy this ARN and I can paste it over here while creating the this one API gateway, and content handling pass through and default timeout is there, then I can save it. So now my this one method has been created. I have created the resource. I can have the method. I can test it because I don't have complete infrastructure in place. I cannot test it currently. Okay. So I'm going to remove it actually. Let me delete this resource because I have already created a resource API already. So I can remove this test API. Okay, I have a test API gateway already, so I can test this one here. Okay, I'll perform the testing over here when we will test it. Okay, so what we have done is we have created the API gateway, we have the data stream, Kinesis data stream on demand, right? Now we are going to create the cluster because we have created the source. If you look at this picture, right? So for Kinesis Datafirehouse, this is going to be the source Kinesis data stream. Once the data comes into Kinesis data stream, it will be going passing from the Kinesis Datafirehouse to land into the S3 and AWS Redshift. So we are going to create the target thing. So let's go to the S3 bucket first. So S3 bucket, I have go to the S3 bucket and create one bucket. I have an already created bucket, so it's a simple actually. I can empty this bucket actually because there are records in it, so I can delete those records basically. So now the records has been deleted. Okay, my bucket is empty. So this bucket I'm going to use as a part of my intermediate bucket. If you look at this picture, so this bucket is going to be the intermediate before going data into the AWS Redshift finally. So data is kind of backed up here. Okay, intermediately you can say intermediate file or you can say backup or something like. Okay, now we will have to have the Redshift cluster created. So you go to the Redshift, simply you create the Redshift cluster. Okay, so there is, we have seen creation of the Redshift cluster. Okay? You can go again and give the name, then you can choose your node type, as simple as, because it's going to be charged, right? So you create as much simpler and least costly node, right? So while looking at this charging and all, you can see how much charging it happens, right? So depending upon that, you choose the least possible configuration, right? Then sample data, we don't want sample data. If you want sample data, you can do that click, okay? Then AWS username by default I'm taking, I can take the password as well. You can see the password, right? And then there is a by default IAM role will come. So you let it this IAM role be assigned automatically. Okay. And there will be a default VPC networking settings. You let it be. Okay. Then create the clusters. You don't have to do anything more over here. So I have a Redshift cluster, and after clicking the cluster, creating the cluster, you create the temp table actually. So I have created the table automate already. So my table name is employee info. If you want to see the employee info, um, so if you look at this table, right? So Redshift cluster create a table named employee info. My create table statement is the right. Let's say I'm taking only four this one columns. Okay, ID, name, department, and role. Okay, as far as sample data. So I have created this table. Okay, already. If you want to see the table already, then you can select all. Otherwise, you can create it again actually. So I think Dev AWS user database name is Dev. Okay, my Redshift cluster is Redshift cluster 2. Okay, there is one record actually. So what I can do is I can delete the record actually. Delete from this one. So this is completed. Select all from employee info. So from the Redshift cluster, I have this table, and I don't have any more record over here. So what we are going to see is, let's say, create this one actually. Read this one. Let's run this. We'll see no record current now. So we have created this step, creating the Redshift cluster. Now the term is to create this one KDF, Kinesis Data Firehouse. Okay. So Kinesis Data Firehouse source as Kinesis data stream and destination as a Redshift and S3 as an intermediate, or you can say again. I mean S3 will be backup or intermediate, both ways it can be done. Okay. So go to the Kinesis service, okay, dashboard, and go to the, we have a data stream, delivery stream, analytics stream, right? So go to the delivery stream. Now you create the, I have an already created. So let's create again actually another one. So what you do is you click on the create delivery stream, and then there will be a, this is the explanation actually. Data ingestion and the transform also can be done as part of this processing, and then load into the different um, you can directly put the record in the Kinesis agent or CloudWatch, IoT Event Breeze, or right. So these kind of things we have already. So and then I'll close this, and my part is like choose the source and destination. My source is Kinesis data stream, my destination is Redshift. So there are multiple destinations, like Amazon S3 only, Redshift open search service, right? Amazon for searching and all, right? And there is an HTTP endpoint also, right? So let's concentrate on our processing. If I select on destination as an Amazon Redshift, so now I have to detailed source setting I need to supply actually. So the source setting is Kinesis data stream. It is asking the ARN for the Kinesis data stream. So if you browse it, so I have only one data stream, so I can select it and I can choose this. So it will automatically come here. And the delivery stream name, right? So this is source setting, the delivery stream name, right? The name of the, you can modify as well. And if you want the transformation in between, right? So this is an optional part. So if you enable it, so the explanation is, right, you can use a lambda function to transformation. I have another project already, so which is used lambda. It is using the lambda in between actually. So if you enable it, you need to supply the information related to the lambda and all. So I am not using the lambda. I'm just putting the record, and it is basically going through DataFirehouse and S3 in Redshift, okay, automatically. I don't want to do the transformation, so I don't want to use the Lambda service, okay, in between. Now, this is the destination, configuration. Destination is Redshift, so I need to give the Redshift information. So if you, if you see the drop down, I have already selected no, I mean listed node, so I can just go and click it. So my by default username and password will come. Otherwise, what you can do is you can you can remember you can go to the Redshift and see what are the settings I have we have done, okay, password and all you can see, and give the database. Dev is my database, right? So if you look at this in Redshift, I have a dev as a database. User is AWS user, okay. So table name, I can give the table name like employee info I have created. So I can give the table name as employee info. And columns I need to give as a comma separated name of, so and like ID, name, department ID, and role. So this you need to specify. And then intermediate S3 bucket. I was talking about the S3 bucket, right? So the path of this you need to give intermediate. You go here and browse. So you will have all the bucket listed. So you select this one, and then you can give the some prefix name if you want. Otherwise, it is an optional basically. So you don't have to give any. So if you have multiple folders and all, so to better manage it, you can create a intermediate prefix actually. And this is the Amazon Redshift copy command. So copy command of this one, if you want to give the some specific instruction, right, options actually, then you can give. So here you don't forget to delimiter, okay, delimiter, okay, delimiter is my comma, or I have a comma, I will supply the comma delimited data. So once you give this copy, you can see the copy command. So this is the normal copy command. If you want to get the data into the Redshift cluster from the S3 bucket, so this is the that copy command basically. Okay, you can run this command in Redshift query editor. So that also will pull the data from data, right? But we are using as a pipeline, so it will first land into the real time, it will first land into the S3 bucket, and then this in turn, in the background, this copy command is going to run. So you need to specify this. So this will be optional actually. This will, but if you need to specify some certain instruction in the sense of options, right? In copy command options, you can specify. You see here, if you want that there are options which are not available over here, so you can go and specify over here. Then the retry duration and all you can specify, buffer hint and all these kind of things are there. Advanced settings, I'm not going to do anything more over here. So IAM role, it is going to be created and assigned automatically. So you create the delivery stream, okay, and that's all. So I'm going to cancel it because I have already created delivery stream. If you want to see the configuration of this delivery stream, you can see this. Okay, so now this is my delivery stream, right? Amazon Redshift, this one, and this is my ARN, right? And then my configuration, you want to see this is my source, this is transformation, I'm not going to do. This is my destination, Redshift cluster, copy command, right? Intermediate S3 bucket, everything else is there. Okay, and this is the service access role. Okay, if you want to see the role, then you can see the click on it and you see the role and what are the permission it has. Okay, so this is the policy actually. So this policy will have automatically created actually, and you don't have to worry about anything more. Okay, if you want to see the trust relationship, this also will be created automatically, so don't have to worry about. Okay, so now the time is to test the thing. Okay. So if you want to see the data, because I have tested it already, the steps actually. So therefore you may see the data over here actually. If you go to the data viewer in Kinesis data stream, go to the Kinesis data stream. So go to the data viewer. If you want to see some data, so you would, I think there is no record, right? Oh, it is not there. I think maybe it is here. Let us know it's not time horizon. I think, yeah. If you select the time horizon, you will see some data, right? So I have already pushed the data multiple times. Okay. So therefore, these data is available over here. So what you can do is I will push the data from API gateway. So currently we have, like in this data stream, we have 3 records. Okay. You see the all the shards actually. So I have another this one also, this record in another shard. Okay. So I have kind of records. Okay, I don't have anything in the shard number zero. I have 3 record in shard in 002, and I have 1 record in this one 4. Okay, so I have kind of 4 record. Okay, so let's see the API gateway testing. I'm going to post there some data. So go to the steps actually. So what we are going to see is how to test it. So post this is the pattern actually. So you need to give the stream name. You read this HTML file. Okay, I'll give this HTML in my description. So you read this and you will come to know the how to push the record from the API gateway to get to the different destination basically. So this is the, you need to give the stream name, you need to give the data. So basically you need to give the encoded data. This is an encoded data, right? And I will give the encoded data. So I have an base 64 encoding I will do, and then I will supply the data, right? Okay, and this is the partition key. You can give anything, okay? So let's see. Let's see. What we are going to push the, right? So let me try to. copy this and try to copy. So once you go to the, your resource, you do post method, and if you click on test, you will have this wizard. And if you come to the request body, so you need to specify this one. So let me try to check this. Let's say partition, I'm going to give the 100, let's say, okay. And test KDS, my stream name is test KDS, right? Data stream. So this test KDS, Kinesis data stream name you need to give, and then you need to give the actual data payload, right? The payload I'm converting, right? I'll give the, let's say I'm giving the payload as 4, and let's say software word, let's say I'm giving the D0, and let's say I'm giving the architect. So I'm encode this payload, and I have encoded value over here. I'll copy this. I'll paste it over here. Okay. So now I would be testing it. Okay. So you have seen, right? So we will see that where is this? Yeah, from here, right? So we are going to supply the 4 software word. ID is 4, software is the, name, D0 is the department ID, architect is the role. So this information we are going to push from the API gateway, let's say, and I'm testing it. So if you look at this right hand side, so this has been assigned to side number this one, and this is successful. Okay, status is 200, which is okay. This is my test API. Okay, so this log is also appearing over here. So in some time this data would be traveling directly to the Kinesis data stream. So if you go to the Kinesis data stream and you go to the data viewer, now we will see, I mean, where this data has been landed. Data origin, I will see. Okay, so data has been landed into the this one 100, right? Partition key I have given 100, right? So if you look at the data what I have supplied is like where is that API gateway. So partition key was 100. My data came as an this one, right? So for software word E0 architect. So this data has been come. Okay. So now we will this data should be traveling into the data stream. Okay. Look at the data stream and see, I mean, whether we have received the data. So maybe we need to check actually destination logs and all. So these are the logs from the previous run actually. So there were failure, and so I have corrected those failures. So there was some connectivity issue. So those we have you connected. Okay. So this is okay. So the monitoring, if you see, so there will be a monitor metrics, right? So these are the whenever the data comes, right? So these spikes comes, right? So depending upon the, so this run, I think I'll check, I mean, whether, so currently we did not have the record, right, in this one. So once the data lands here, we can check it. So I think still the data did not come in the table. So it's somewhere in currently in the on the way. So what we can see is the CloudWatch. Okay, so we have a CloudWatch. Go to the CloudWatch this one service. Okay, and go to the logs and log group. So you will see the different log groups. So my log group is Kinesis Data Firehouse, right? So my this one I could check is R and T and Q. So this is my data stream. So let's see, I mean, which one is this one? R and T and Q. I go to this one, and you will see the this one destination delivery. Okay. So what is the time? 7, 9. This is previous run, right? So we'll not see. So these are all failure actually. So let me, the backup delivery is also not there, right? So let me, okay. We'll see, I mean, when this data comes over here. Maybe it's taking time. So the overall thing is like, we'll keep on watching actually this one. If there is a failure, then there is a problem. Otherwise, it will be successful. Okay. Uh, this I can close this one, and the So the documentation part, you can go through this HTML file, or so let's see here. So once we land the data into the AWS Redshifts, we can query, and other destination services also can be configured actually. AWS QuickSight, or also the third party, Power BI or Tableau on top of the AWS Redshift sites. Okay, now let me check the data over here. Still, I think it's on the way. Let me check in the S3 bucket what is happening. So currently it did not come. Okay. So let's see the solution actually. So this solution can be enhanced in other way, like we can have a lambda for the data transformation. Okay, and we can have a web application, or maybe the data ingestion source, maybe some other application which creates the data upfront and then load into the you know I mean use the API gateway to push the data, right? And then API gateway would receive the data, and then so this testing can be done through Postman also, right? So you can use the Postman and you can supply the data like that. Or we will have a URL, and from the web we can push the data. Okay. So let me see if it is arrived or not. Yeah, so we have the data now. So this one we have supplied, right? So if you look at this one, for software or D0 architect. So this has received in here. So if you want to see the intermediate data, so we can see that there is in data. You can come, you can this one and then this one, right? So if you want to see the data, you can query the data. This is CSV format, right? So just query the data. You will see the data over here as well in the formatted or raw format. So this is how you can uh, you can uh, you can enable these pipelines end to end. So now I'm going to remove the Redshift cluster first actually. So because it's an costly actually. So you also remember to remove your infrastructure. So I don't want to create the snapshot. I just delete it. You delete the cluster. It's going to take some time to delete it. So any other sources I may not be requiring, but maybe I would remove this one also. You know, Kinesis Data Firehouse. Everything else roles we can let it be because there is no charges of this. Data stream also I think it doesn't charge, but I'll remove it. Actually, we don't need this. It's a simple if we can create a later point in time if required. Okay. So you will have this one, right? This is deleted. This is also deleted. And this data also I can remove actually. So I can empty this bucket. I'll spell permanently delete. So this way I can release the resources actually. So we don't want to use the resources in like that only. So yeah, with that I think we have created this data pipeline. So we can enhance in multiple ways. That is true. So yeah. Thank you so much. Please subscribe my channel, and we are going to see other complex projects in times to come. Thank you so much.